All right, Andrew, back once again to talk to you about the Generation NEX, but this time to show you the Generation NEX. I apologize for the glare on my TV screen. It is made of glass, which is reflective. I don't know why I'm talking about that, but let's move on to the actual system itself. Now, there's a couple things to keep in mind here. This is a clone console. It is working off of something that you will see on the internet referred to as an NOAC, which is called a Nintendo on a chip, which means that instead of all the chips that make your NES work the way that it does, this thing is operating off of one. And so sometimes you can get differences in colors on the picture. You can get many differences in sound. And Messiah really touted this thing as playing 100% of the NES library, which was not the case because most of these clone systems, actually all of these clone systems, have games that will not play on them. And I will show you one that is notorious here in a moment. So, before I get into actual gameplay for a second, one rule, and I will show you right now, is I have my copy of Millipede here, and I also have a copy of a game called Pinbot for NES. You do not want to put a Famicom game in and an NES game at the same time and power the system on. Because this being an early Nintendo or Famicom clone does not have a switcher in it to tell the system which place to power. So, if you put both in, it's going to try to split the power between the two. Neither is going to play, and you run the risk of damaging the console. So choose one and stick with one only. To start with, we're going to do just Millipede on Famicom. Again, I'm taking that out nice and easily, as I described in the last video. And so let's power this on and take a look at Millipede. Fires right up. I will volume up for you. And we have Millipede playing on our Generation NEX on a Famicom cartridge with no problems. Pretty nice. I'm sure you guys have seen Millipede before, so I won't bore you with it any longer. But let's get destroyed first. So there's Famicom cartridge, and again, my lines on my TV are due to it being a CRT television, so bear with me on that. I'm going to take Millipede out and put in Pinbot on NES and show you how that works. So I will put that right on top for the time being. Slide Pinbot in and power on console. And here we have Pinbot playing on the Generation NEX in the NES slot. Wow, look at the nipples on that. Why would they do that? Batman didn't need nipples. Why does that robot chick? Okay, I digress once again. Let's press start, and I have no idea what they just said. That may be a case of this NOAC problem too. That sound may have been beautiful on the Nintendo, but it's just not here. So basically Pinbot is just robot pinball, which is good fun for a little while, but for demonstration's sake, you can see that both the NES and Famicom slots on the Generation NEX work without a problem as long as you put the games in one at a time and not have two in together. So there you have Pinbot. Now we'll turn this off, and I talked to you about games that had compatibility issues with anything to do with Nintendo on a chip. So let's take a look at one that is, again, very notorious for this issue, and it is actually here on my shelf. Slide it off of here. This is Castlevania 3. Dracula's Curse. This is notorious for having, I believe it's an extra sound chip in it that always gives clone consoles trouble. And so much trouble, in fact, and I've never tried this on this clone before, some people will get the title screen and nothing more, some people will get nothing at all. So let's fire it up and see what we get here. I get a green screen. So there you have it. There are limitations. And if you're a purist and really care about the sound, and really care about the picture being exactly as you remember it, then this may not be for you. One other example that I will give you while we're here, and we may notice no difference at all. You may notice difference right away. It may be tough because I'm doing it through a video camera to you right now, but let's check out one that everybody knows on Famicom, that everybody had on their NES, and that is Super Mario Brothers. The power system down. I probably should not have done that, but, you know, live and learn. YOLO, as the kids say. Let's fire up Mario Brothers and see what we think. So, it fired right up. I'm going to turn the volume up for the time being so we can see. To my layperson's eye, and I really do love video games and always have, I don't see any difference in Mario Brothers. It looks the same to me, but let's hear the sound. Again, I'm no purist. It doesn't sound a whole lot different to me. There may be some... And one thing I will say on the sound front is, I think sometimes the percussion sound effects, like the drums you hear playing, maybe the biggest difference out of the whole bunch. I don't know if you could tell there. The only thing I ever notice a difference in sometimes is the drum section. I know in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game on here, the drum sounds that are made sound really, really hard-hitting, and not in a good way. It's kind of one of those things where you wonder how much longer you can play the game before you've had enough. So, there are a few drawbacks, but for the most part, we have for ourselves here a really nice clone console. To finish up, I'll just let you know that anymore we live in a day and age where it seems like clone consoles are really expensive in and of themselves, which is strange. And I apologize for what seems like dark lines around the characters on the screen. That is not what I'm seeing on the TV right now. Again, it's that CRT thing. But this Generation NEX is going used right now for around $100, and I know that there's a Retron 5 console that just came out that plays a boatload of stuff, including Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color and all that good stuff, along with Famicom and Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo. A lot of cool stuff, but the problem is that thing retailed at $140, sold out, and hi, I can see you there, sold out, and now it's going for around $200 and up on eBay. So these clone consoles that were supposed to be the cheap alternative are not so cheap. So keep that in mind. You hate to be the way that sometimes the world makes you go. However, emulators look more appealing every day, which is not the route that I like to go, just because I like having the actual hardware in my hands and the real controller. But I can see why people are tempted. But you did not hear that here. So I will leave it here. Generation NEX gets a thumbs up in my book, but I think you may be better spent looking for maybe an actual Nintendo Entertainment System, if that's what you're into, because you can get those for sometimes $50 or less. You can replace the 70-pin connector, which I will show you at some point. Super easy and does the trick. So with that, I'm Andrew, and we will talk to you soon.